All right. Anything else that y'all want to look at today before we start talking about the lab?
My graph looked really weird on 5.1.
Did you see the announcement that I made about the 5.1 practice exercises?
Probably not.
Have a look at that announcement and it'll fix that.
Okay.
And I'll talk about that here in a minute. Or actually, I can go ahead and talk about it now. So if you didn't, make sure you have a look at that announcement for the 5.1. The IRIS data set, when we make the scatter plots for it, what you're going to find is when you look at the scatter plot, the three different species are kind of separated. There's not a whole lot of overlap between the three different species. The smoothing by default uses a method that does like this curved line that goes through the points. I think it's because of that separation that method doesn't work real great. So you get this really funky looking plot that doesn't make any sense. So instead, a way to fix that is to change the method that R is using to calculate that smooth line. And so the method we're going to use is LM, so in other words, linear. And so it's going to fit a straight line through those points. And in the announcement, I show you how to change that method. You just add in one argument and it'll make your plot look a lot more reasonable and it'll make a lot more sense if you add that piece in. If you don't add that piece in, R basically says, well, I can't really do what you want me to do, so I'm going to try to do something. And what it produces makes no sense in terms of summarizing the data set.
Okay.
So Gustavo, if that doesn't help, let me know, but I think that should fix your plot.
Okay. Because it did like a weird
yeah, like it doesn't
binomial line, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look good if you use the the original method that it has. But if you add in that LM method, it'll look a lot more reasonable. You'll get a nice little straight line for each of the different species, and it makes a lot more sense in terms of summarizing the data.
Sounds good. I'll fix it. Thanks.
All right. So before we start talking about lab this week, I actually want to take just a minute and talk about lab next week while I've got everybody in the room. So next week, you're going to get your first mini project. And so since it's a week where there's a mini project, there are no other assignments. There's no new lectures. The only thing you're going to have next week is the mini project. So I'm going to really encourage you to try to at least look over that mini project, start thinking about it before you come to class next week. So that way, when you come to class next week, you've got questions and we can start looking at things together and you'll be well prepared to ask any questions so that I can help you with that assignment. So for me, when I first learned to code in R, I would go through the classes, I do okay. But the most challenging part for me, where I really hit a wall, was where instead of having these individual lines of code or these individual questions that were like, write this line of code, write this line of code. The much harder thing for me was when I was given a project and said, okay, here's the project, here's what your overall goal is. Now go write code to accomplish that. That's a lot harder because now you've got to figure out, okay, well, what is it I'm trying to look at? What is the code I need to look at this? And it's just much more challenging. And so the mini projects are designed to basically have you do that. So they're going to be a little bit harder than the practice exercises or the labs. And the goal is in all of the assignments to kind of help build you up to that point. So for the mini project next week, I do want to take just a second and talk about it, since I won't see you again until next week. So give me just a second. You don't have access to it yet. I'll give you access tomorrow. But just kind of as a preview, I've pulled some real data. It's on COVID-19. And some of the things that are going to be included in the data set, these are all going to be patient level data. It's going to include demographics such as sex, age, race, ethnicity. And then for each of the patients, it's going to have things like whether or not the patient was hospitalized, whether or not they were admitted to the ICU, and whether or not they died. And so your goal is going to be to analyze this data. You're only going to do it in terms of summaries, statistics, and plots. So don't worry about, hypothesis tests, anything like that. This is going to be purely based on the things that we've already looked at in the course. And your goal is going to be to write a fact sheet based on this data that you could, for example, take to a public health official or take to a health department and talk about what you found from this data in a visually appealing way that easily summarizes the data. So I'm sure each of you have seen the governor's governor's address, where they pull up like different plots and things that summarize data. That's exactly what your goal here is to take this data. Oh yeah, so Samuel asked, what is the data source? It is from the CDC. Sorry, I was looking, I got the source in here, I was looking here. Yeah, so this all is going to come from the CDC. Now, I will say the original data set for this had over 8 million observations. I've parsed it down to about 1 million. I removed all the observations that had any missing data, some of the funky stuff. So I made you kind of a nice clean data set for this one, but it is real data that you're going to be analyzing. So anyway, so overall idea is I'm going to give you a big data set. You're going to have some questions. And you're going to want to summarize it, what's happening in this data set. And so that's going to be the whole goal here. So you're going to have to figure out, okay, how do I read in my variables? How do I summarize these variables? How do I make some nice looking plots so that I can help somebody figure out what's going on with this data? And again, you'll get all of that information. I'll make that available tomorrow with the data set, the fact sheet, information, everything. So anyhow, so that's just kind of a preview. After you get it tomorrow, if you have any questions before Thursday, feel free to email me, ask whatever questions you have. I just want to make sure that everybody has looked at that before Thursday, because if you wait until Thursday to have your first look at it, you're going to be a little bit behind. All right, any questions about that?
Without looking at it in depth yet, I assume data like that, we might be creating graphics with some kind of time series or panel data set. And that leads into a question I had about something I'm doing for a different project, which is when you use data, it's normally you set there's commands to set a panel data set. If I want to do these graphics with time series data, is there something different I need to do with R, or will it automatically read units of observation? Or
that is such an excellent question. And so I'm trying to think how I want to say this. So we haven't covered time series data yet. So this course, where it's a 500 level course, we have undergraduates and we have graduates. And part of what distinguishes between the two is for the projects, I'm adding on a graduate student piece. And it's funny you asked that, because the graduate student piece for this assignment is to learn a little bit about time series data. So there are a couple variables that are time data. And so what I'm going to have you do, the graduate students, part of what you have to do is somehow incorporate those variables that deal with time and dates. So later on in the course, we'll cover dates and time more, but graduate students are going to get a little bit of a preview of that with this assignment. And so I give you kind of a hint here in the project, but there are three of the variables. One is the date the case was reported to the CDC. One is the date of first positive specimen collection, and the other one is onset date of symptoms. So one of the things that graduate students have to do is consider those three variables, and there's a function that's called diff time that will look at the difference in time between two different time variables, and then use that somehow in the summaries. So you're actually going to start touching, the graduate students are going to start touching on time data in this assignment as kind of a preview to what we do later on. So it's very fitting that you ask that question, because it actually ends up that's part of the assignment for graduate students. Now, in terms of specifically how you analyze time data, in terms of summary, there are time series plots that we can make, which we haven't covered yet. And if you need help with that now, we can look at that individually. So when we looked at the types of variables that you can have in R, we've looked at characters, we've looked at integers, things like that, numbers and letters. There are also time variables. So you can actually store in R a variable that is stored as a date. And so the way that those are encoded can change. They can be coded different ways. And then how you go to analyze those, there can be different ways to summarize those as well. So if you have specific questions with something you're doing right now, you're trying to figure out how to do, feel free to email me, and I can go ahead and send you some resources of specifically how to work with your data in R. So yeah, like I said, very timely question.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? All right, so we will go ahead and get started on today's work then. So for today's lab, what I'm going to be having you do is kind of tying together what we've been doing so far in the semester. And really what we've been doing is what we would call exploratory analysis or descriptive summaries. So we've briefly looked how can you calculate the mean, median, max, things like that of a variable. And then we've spent a lot of time looking at graphs of different variables. So we're going to continue that idea into lab. And for lab today, I'm going to have you write just like a little 1 or 2 page report. And in the lab, you'll see I walk through all the different things I'd like included in that report. And that is going to kind of help tie together all these ideas. And it's going to set you up nicely to kind of refresh how you might do some things for that mini project next week. Now, as always, whenever we come to class on Thursdays, if you have not completed the 5.1 and 5.2 practice exercises, I'm getting ready to create a breakout room so that you can go into the room with Ron. Ron, full disclosure, I need to send you keys still. I've got a key for 5.1, but not 5.2 made. So I'm going to send you the 5.1 key. If anybody has questions that are not on the key or you need help with, just either send them back to me or send me an email, and I can send you that. So I will create that breakout room. So if you're still working on 5.1, 5.2, and you want to go in the room with Ron, go ahead. If you want to stay in here and work on the lab with me. So let me do that. All right, I have opened the room. If anybody did not get that invite and would like to be manually placed, just let me know. You can put it in the chat, send it to me, and I can manually move you over to the room with Ron.
Would you mind sending it to me? Sorry, it didn't like.
Oh, you're fine. I will do that right now. Was that Brooke? Sorry, I was.
Yep, it's me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else want to go over the breakout room that didn't get the invite? All right, well, we will go ahead and get started on the lab. Now, one of the things you'll notice, this lab is focused on creating that report. So I don't walk you through the R script portion first, but I would highly recommend, writing your code in R script just like we've done before first, then moving it over to the notebook. One thing to notice as you scroll through the lab is I am going to ask you to write these tables, but at the bottom of the directions for the lab, I actually go ahead and I give you the code to create those same tables in your notebook. The only thing that you'll have to change in there is the number. So you'll notice if you look down at the code portion at the bottom, in the code, there'll be a backslash and then a number sign. That together is where you'll place a number, if that makes sense. So you'll want to delete out all the backslash and the number signs that are together to put your numbers in. Do not delete though. Actually, let me just share the screen so it'll make it easier. So here, looking at the code on how to create these tables, the only thing that you're going to want to replace is, for example, that piece right there, just the backslash and the number sign. Can't highlight it all the way. There we go. That will be a single number, and then the next one's a single number. Do not get rid of the and signs or these backslashes at the end. Those are what separate the different pieces or the different sections in the table. And then the double line is what's putting the line here at the end and starting a new line. So the only thing you'll replace will be the backslash and the number sign together. And while y'all are looking at that, I'll be right back. I'm going to grab some more coffee. And then also for anyone, graduate student or undergrad, if there's anybody that has to write documents in tech, which is essentially what the notebook is converting over to, and knows that in the future you're going to have to add tables, if you want to know more about that code and how that's working, or if you have any questions, just let me know. And I should say, when I say that's code, that's not our code. That's, you'll put that just in the regular text. That's what's called LaTeX code.
Dr. Ellis, I do gonna need LaTeX in future, and so in the first two classes I had a problem, need the notebook into LaTeX, and then I restored everything by the order of MikTeX first and then R Studio. I still cannot do it for the last homework.
All right, so you did MikTeX first and then your install, and then R Studio?
Yes.
Okay. And are you on a Mac or a PC?
PC. Oh, it's desktop on Windows.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to think of, so the only way to fix that then, it's not an easy fix. I think, where I'll tell you what, do you mind to share your screen and just try compiling one of them to a PDF? It doesn't matter which one. So like one of our previous ones, and let me see what error code it's giving you.
Sure. Give me a second.
Yeah, because there's one easy fix that might fix it, and then there's a harder fix, and I'm hoping it's going to be the easier one.
Okay, this is the notebook. Oh, sorry. Should click on. Need to PDF, right? Yeah, the word is okay.
All right, what we need to do is, do you see how there is a PDF latex.log that it's referring to?
Mm-hmm.
Find that file so I can look at it.
Okay.
And it gives you the path on your computer. So we can actually use that path in your Windows Explorer to go through and find that file.
Let's see.
You know, the other thing that you could do is down in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen where it says type here to search, just type for PDF latex.log. Let's see, it might just come up that way too. Oh, do it in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So if you do it here, it's just gonna search in those subfolders, whatever folder you were in.
This is the place you want to go?
Oh, sorry, like on your main computer screen. Like all the way in the, yeah, there you go. Oh, no, sorry. So that did the, do you not have that set to, try doing the search again for me. All right, so up at the top, instead of all, click on documents, because we don't want it to do a web search. You see documents at the top there. Oh, sorry, not there. Like, yeah, there you go. Yeah, so what we're gonna have to troubleshoot, and if this doesn't, if I can't figure it out here, I might have you come to my office hours, because to troubleshoot this, what we're gonna have to do is first figure out if it's a problem with your MikTeX installation, which will be the first step. So we'll run some test files from a different LaTeX editor to see if they compile. If your LaTeX is properly, and then it's an issue between the communication between RStudio and MikTeX, which could be another problem. That may, there'll be one of two issues. It will be that your MikTeX is not updating the packages correctly, which can cause that issue, or we'll have to go in and edit the path on the computer, which is a little bit more tricky.
Okay. If the noise from the unmuted students bothers you, you can you have the right to mute him if you
Oh
want.
no, you're fine. Yeah, it looks like this is gonna, well, it's almost done.
I can stop share and then let you know when my computer finds it.
Yeah, or I was gonna suggest, because I'm afraid it's gonna take a while to fix it. Unfortunately, when those errors occur, it can just kind of be a pain to troubleshoot and figure out where they are. Are you able to come to my office hours on Mondays? If not, we could find another time and look at it together. On Mondays,
Monday might not work for me. I have 4 classes that day.
oh yeah, let's just find another day then. If you just send me an email and we'll find a day that works well with both of our schedules, and we'll just schedule an hour so that I can sit there. And I think also on Zoom, I can take over on your computer. And that way I can
Sounds
kind of
good.
go through and see if I can figure out whether the issue is with your MikTeX installation or if it's with the communication between RStudio and MikTeX.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
on the table code, you have like group 1 twice. I have to change to group 2, right?
I just noticed that as soon as you said that. Let me fix that. I will, to make it easier on you all, give me just a second and I will fix that code and change the PDF. Thank you.
Yep. What was like the lab or practice exercises that we did, like the summaries, like the mean and everything, so I can look at the
Yeah,
code?
those were early on. I want to say maybe in week 1 or week 2 even. So you can just give you an idea, or I'll just go ahead and tell you so you don't have to dig through them. You could either use the mean function, which is probably the easiest one, the median function to get those, or there's also the summary function. We'll give you both of them in a single function.
Because I don't remember how to do it by group, so that's why.
Oh, so that's where you want to use that which statement. So remember,
Yeah.
we would use that which statement with those logic operators in week 2, I think. And so what you can do is you'll use that which statement to pull out for each of the groups. Or, and I got to go back and remember how we did it. There's 2 different ways you can do it. You can do it in a single line of code, or you could create a sub data set that's for group 1 and a sub data set that's for group 2, again, using the which function. And I just realized I had group 1 twice on those tables. So I'm going to fix that right now. All right, I just updated that lab 5 PDF. And I'll tell you what, let me do something else as well. What I'm going to do is to the lab, I'm going to also give you all my R notebook that I used to create that. That'll make it a little bit easier to copy the code. All right, I added that RMD file if you want to use that one to copy the code from the tables, because I know when you copy it over from the PDF, I think it tries to put it all in one line and it looks kind of funky. So I've given you that. Now you'll have to, of course, scroll through the notebook to find those, but that'll make that a little bit easier to copy and paste that over. And one thing to note though is in the notebook, let me share my screen here. So in my notebook, for the table, the bottom part where I give you the code, I have put it in an R chunk. You do not want to do that. The only reason I did this was so that it would include the code verbatim into the file without actually running it. You want it to actually run it. So yours will look more like it does earlier up in my notebook to actually get it to include. So you do not want your table code in an R chunk. If you have trouble when it comes time to paste those in, or if you want to go ahead and paste those in and compile it just to make sure you've got the table, let me know and we can look at it together.
So for the R script, do you want us writing in like number 1 and 2, or is that just for the notebook?
That's just for the notebook. Yep,
Okay.
just for the notebook.
But then for number 3, we need the script in a R script file.
Yeah, and really think of, so just in practice, like how my work process works is I will generally write the script first, and I kind of think of that as like my scrap paper. Like that's where I'm jotting down my notes, make sure you comment it. And then my notebook is more like my finalized project where I include all the pieces that I want. And so that's why I'm kind of driving you all towards using that type of workflow. So really the script portion is for you. It's a place where you can, make sure you've got your code working, everything looks good, and then you just copy and paste it over the notebook.
Okay.
So that's why you don't need 1 and 2 in there, because it's 1 and 2, you don't really need, the notebook. You don't need like scrap paper, stuff you're doing on the side for those pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ellis, I'm having a pretty tough time even just getting the descriptive statistic commands to work. Like an example would be either summarize or mean, and then I have the name of the data set, dollar sign.
And we'll look at it together. It's probably just a slight syntax issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason that is happening is the mean function is sensitive to missing values. Remember, we talked about missing values early on. If there are any missing values in that BMI variable, then we're going to come up with an error. And so, so see how there's some missing values in there? So let me show you how to fix that. So what we need to do is in our mean function, we need to add an argument, which is na.rm, and set that equal to true. And so that's going to go inside of your function. So for example, let me put this in the chat. So if you had, if it makes any sense here. So we wanted to use the mean function on a variable, and that variable has missing data, this is what you would want to add in. So the reason you're getting NA there is because it was trying to calculate the mean, but those missing values were part of it. And so essentially it's saying, well, since those values are missing, I don't know what they would be. So then the mean is also, I don't know what the mean should be. But if you add in that argument, that will remove the missing values and calculate the mean for the variables that are there.
So do I have to do that because the summarize command wasn't working for me either?
So it's not summarize, it's summary, and yes. So summarize is actually a different function, and we'll actually see that in week 8, I think. I think that's right. We'll cover summarize in week 8. But yes, for the summary, you'll want to include that as well, because embedded in the summary is the mean. And I think I made a comment on the lab itself. If I didn't, I meant to. I might be thinking of a different assignment. Typically, did I not include it on this one? I can't remember if I did or not. In the real world, in the real world, if you have missing data in your data set, you would want to make sure for any of your tables or any of your descriptions that you note that there was missing data and how many were missing. So in practice, that's something that you would really want to include. Here, I'm not requiring you to include it, but just do be aware of that. Good practice with data, you would always note, this is the mean for BMI, but there were however many missing data points there. And we're going to have a whole week where we talk about missing data, how to visualize it, how to think about it for a data set later on.
It's really mad at me. I cannot like subdivide into a different
Yeah, you want to pull it up?
data set. It's like I pulled up the data set and I just wanted, because we have to do by group. So I was like trying to subgroup it in like a group 1 data set and a group 2 data set.
You are so close. There's one minor thing. And so I'm going to give you a hint. So the single equal sign is the assignment operator. What is the logical argument for equal sign? So you've got superclavicular group equal to 1, but we want the logic there. So it's not the, yeah, there you go. So try that and that should work.
Nope.
Do me just a favor, go over in your global environment on the data set and click that down arrow or click the arrow next to it.
Ocean. Where?
The little blue arrow that's right to the left of the name of the data set.
Okay.
Yeah, so that'll drop down all the variables. All right, so. Oh, I see. So remember when we call superclavicular, I can't talk, and you've got your square brackets, you want to have a comma in there. So everything before the comma represents rows, everything after represents the columns. So after your which statement, you actually need a column because we want all of the rows for which we have group equal to 1. Does that make sense?
No, but so here?
Oh, sorry, no, not there. So at the very end of the which statement. So right before that last square bracket. Yes, because inside of a square bracket, everything to the left represents rows, everything to the right is columns. So this is saying, I want you to pull all of the rows where group is equal to 1. Perfect.
And
so
that just
down there, all of those groups are equal to 1. So, and just so you all know, so starting in week 7, we're going to actually see how to use the tidyverse to partition out into different groups and things like that in a little bit of an easier way where we don't have to use the which function. We're going to use what's called the dplyr package.
So for the table one, do we want to, into the script, do we want to copy and paste the code under number 5?
No. So for the code for the table, well, let me go over here, make sure I don't misspeak here. No, so that code, that's going to actually go in your notebook. That's not our code. That's what we call LaTeX code, and that will build tables into your document. So let me share my screen and show you. Okay. All right. So this file right here, this is our notebook for that created the document that is your lab. So if we kind of can, actually, let me do something else. I think this will be the better way to do this because I'm going to move between 2 files. All right, so here is my R, and this is the notebook that creates your lab. So here is the lab. So let's kind of compare the two so we can see what's happening. So notice in the PDF, I've got text, and then down here in this text, I've got this table, right? So if I go back to my R notebook, the RMD, notice I've got all of that text. And then if I keep on scrolling down, here is the code for the table. So notice I don't have this inside of an R chunk or anything. I've just included it right along with my normal text that I'm typing. This is what we call LaTeX code, and this is what will actually create these tables in with your normal text. So like if you were in Word, you go up and you click on Insert Table, and it builds that table for you. This is the same thing. It's just we use that code to build it instead of clicking on things to build it. So it's a separate kind of code from our code. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So am I not making that table in the R script then?
No, you're not making, because that's what I'm saying. It only goes in the notebook. It doesn't go in the script. If you try putting that in the script, it won't run.
So
it's not our code.
The only thing that I would be creating in the script is like 3B, where it says create an overlapping histogram.
Well, you will. So for these, it's not that you're creating the table in R, but you do need to write code to find these numbers.
Okay.
So for example, you'll want to write the code that finds median, BMI for group 1 and group 2.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Does that make more sense? So you're not building the table, you're writing code to find the numbers that go in those tables.
Yeah, it makes sense, but it doesn't mean I know how to do that either. So.
Well, and that's why this is to get you ready for next week. So we've talked about this stuff before, but pulling it forward because a lot of this was in week 2. And then just like you saw with, was it Cameron? Yeah, so Cameron had the issue with the missing data. So you might have to tweak a little bit about what we've done before.
So I did my code just like we saw earlier with the group 1 stuff, and it's not working.
Yeah,
Can I share with you?
Am I still sharing? No, I'm not sharing. Okay. Oh, it's the name of your data set. So the name of
I
your
forgot.
Data.
Right there.
Yep.
Found it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if that doesn't work, yeah, let's go ahead and run it and make sure that works though. Perfect. So Brooke, the first thing that I would do is exactly what Kate just did. Before you worry about finding the BMI, the age, things like that, I would break your data set into 2 groups. Go ahead and try to make a smaller data set with just group 1 and one with just group 2. And so as a hint, you'll want to use that which function. We did this back in, let me try to remember here. If somebody has this quicker than I did, was it in module 2?
3. 3.
Three.
3.1.
Yeah, so have a look at 3.1 and it'll show you how to break that into those two groups. Sorry, Sarah, I just got your email and I love him so much. Sarah sent me a picture of her Dobo.
He's been snoring, so that's why I've been on mute.
Love it. Some days I think that, like if I could, once we're back, like if we could all bring our dogs to work, I'm like, that would be so great. And then I realized I would never get any work done because I would just want to love on everyone's dogs.
Towards the middle of the pandemic, I had to run to CPH, the building, so I brought him with me. So he's been in the public health building and he got to meet like the advisors and like Dr. Ingram from health policy. And so, yeah, it was funny.
Love
So
him.
yes, I completely support this.
I take my dog into Gluck on the weekends and she rides the elevator with me. It's pretty hysterical.
How does she do in the elevator? I never thought about putting a dog on an elevator.
Well, she has to go in it with me. She just has no choice. She just stands there. I mean,
But
my,
doesn't freak her out or anything?
my initial intentions was to make her my emotional support animal. So I just throw things at her and she has to deal.
Love it.
She does pretty well with it all.
Shelly, do you work at Gluck?
Yes, I do.
I'm
a student there.
okay. I'm working with Dr. Carter and Dr. Smith out of the UK Veterinary Diagnostic Lab. So I've had to work with like a couple things with Gluck as well. So the Veterinary Diagnostic Lab. So I didn't know if you knew them or not.
We're not super close with them, but when we do, we used to be before COVID.
I will say mine was very happy yesterday. We finally went on a walk after all, because I hadn't been walking him. I think I've told y'all this before. Mine's bald. He has alopecia, so I don't like taking him out when it's really cold or icy. So we finally got to walk yesterday, and he was very, very happy.
I second that.
You said the which function was used in module 3.1?
I believe that is correct. Let me double check.
Because I only see one section that uses it and it's really small and like not really.
Just a second here. Yes, so we use it in 3.1. Did we use it in 3.2 as well? Give me just a second here. I feel like we've used it other places too.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find.
Yeah, so have a look at your 3.1 practice exercises. So for example, number 10 in 3.1 practice exercises, that's when we create a new vector and we set it equal to the elements that are less than or equal to another one. So it's going to be very similar to what we did there in those practice exercises for that one. And then let me also look here as well. I think we may have done it in that lab. I was trying to remember. But the code's going to be very similar to that 3.1 code.
And you said number 10 when you defined a new vector?
Because that's essentially what you're going to do is you're going to define, except instead of a new vector, it's going to be a new data set, but it's the exact same idea.
And does it matter how we break up the data? Like how do you?
Yeah, so you want to break it up by group. So since you want to have one data set for group 1 and one for group 2, you're going to base it on the values for the variable group. Does that make sense?
We'll see if I figure it out.
Try it, try it, and then we can look at it together and troubleshoot it.
Okay.
Can I share my screen? I don't think my code is right, and I don't think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I've seen this for the people who've shared, but I'm just like. I don't think I know what I'm doing. Okay, so here's all my data and it worked. So that worked. But then what am I doing? Like I've got to create group 1 and group 2. Like I don't remember. I don't understand.
So you're almost there. You're getting close. So first thing we want to do though is let's look at the name of your object that you're creating. So notice that you've got group space 1. So the first question is, oh, sorry, give me just a second. Okay, there we go. So notice you're making a new object called group space 1. Can we have a space in our object names? Perfect. Okay. So next, what you're going to do is, so just in words, what it is we're trying to do is we're going to take that superclavicular, I can't say that word, we're going to take our data set, and we want to take our data set and we want to pull out all of the rows for which group 1, or pardon me, for which the group variable is equal to 1. Perfect. Okay. So,
right?
not quite. So first thing, in those square brackets, you've got a comma, right? Everything before the comma is going to denote the rows. Everything after is going to denote all the columns. So the first thing I want to ask you, when we break this data set into 2 pieces, one piece having all the group 1 data, one piece having all the group 2 data, do you want to remove any of the columns?
Probably the ones that don't have data. Wait, no. Looking at the columns. I just want to do what, BMI, right?
No. So let's go back. So don't worry about the code at all. Let's talk through in words what we want to do first. So you've got this data set down at the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our goal is we're going to split it into 2 pieces. One piece that has all of the data for everybody in group 1, and one piece that has all of the data for everybody in group 2.
Right.
So
Okay.
if I split it, so if I've got my data set that has all of the group 1, am I actually removing any of the columns?
No.
No. So since we want to keep all of the columns, we want to leave after, so now looking at your actual line of code there, we want to leave after the comma blank. So that's going to tell R, I want you to keep all the columns. So let's get rid of everything after the comma. All right, perfect. So now let's talk about the rows. So what rows we're choosing to keep is going to be based off of the group variable. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So notice that group takes what values?
1 or
2, right? So inside of your which statement, we don't want group 1, we want the group variable. So we just want to have just plain group there with the lowercase g. And if somebody is in group 1, what value of group are they going to have?
what value of group? 1?
Yeah, just 1 there. So what we want to do is we're trying to find everybody where group is equal to 1. So now after the word group, do a double equal sign, which is the logical argument. Oh, sorry, not after the comma, after the word group. Do a double equal sign and 1. So what this is going to do is this is going to find everybody that had group equal to 1. And it's only going to keep those rows. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So run that and see what happens.
So I don't need anything after the comma?
Nope. The reason we don't want anything after the comma is we want to keep all of the columns. So do me a favor, if you go up in your global environment, click on group 1. So that's the new data set that you just made.
Hold on, I gotta make it bigger. If it will let me.
And actually double click on the name group 1 and that'll open up that data set for you. So notice this looks just like the data set you had before, but if you look at the group variable,
Okay.
notice that group variable for everybody in this data set is equal to 1. So this is everybody in group 1's data.
Okay, so I can do that statement for group 2 then.
Exactly. So what would you need to change to make it for group?
Just 2 instead of 1. So Okay, so that's how I break those down. And then from there, I can go into each one and pull out what I want. Okay,
Exactly. Just gotta be careful. You put another group one there.
yes, I did. Let me
And one
stop.
thing to notice, so notice for your table, you're going to need the number of subjects in each of the groups. If you look in your global environment right next to group one, it'll actually tell you how many observations there are.
Okay.
Brooke, did you see what I showed Shelly? Did that help? Okay.
I have a couple questions. Number one, how should we operate the descriptive statistics in gender? Are we looking for counts? Like the summary statistics might be a little bit difficult to interpret.
For that one, the easiest function to use is, do you remember the table function?
Yeah.
So the table function, what that will do is that will give you the counts for each of the genders within the groups. And then to get the percentages, you could divide by the number of people in that group. Does that make sense?
Divide what again? Sorry.
By the number of people that are in that group. So for example, let me share my screen here. Let's say that we were working with that iris data set that we've looked at a whole bunch. So if I wanted to do, so if I wanted to know how many were in each of the species, I could use my table function. So it tells me there's 50 in each group. So notice there were 150 total. So if I wanted the percentages instead of the counts, I could just divide by 150. And so then I see there's 33% in each of the groups. Now for Urals, now this will depend on exactly how you've coded yours, but for example, if we were in group one and we wanted to know, I think the name of the variable is gender. If we wanted to table gender, we could do this, but then we would divide by not the overall total, but the total number of people in group one. And I think there's 52 people in group one. Double check me on that. But that's how you could get those percentages.
But like, so for like a median gender, like I don't even really understand what that's asking for.
Oh, that's a copy and paste error. If I've got that in there, that should have been, darn it. Sorry, under gender, that shouldn't say mean median. That should say percentage. Percentage.
Oh, okay.
That's a typo on my fault, on my part. I copy and pasted that table more than I should have. Yeah, sorry, under gender, that should just have, hold on a second, I'll fix that. That's 100% my fault. Yeah, that wouldn't make sense to do mean and median gender. You're exactly right. That would be nonsense. Give me just a second here. Yeah, do percent male. So there'll just be a single number after that.
Just percent male and female?
Yeah. And
or percent male?
Yeah, I would just do percent male. You don't need to do, because if you know the percentage male, then we're going to assume that this binary, this data is older. So if you know the percentage male, you're going to know the percentage female.
Yeah. One last question is, and I feel like you've answered this a bunch already today, but with that table code, I downloaded your RMD file and I've pasted it in and I'm adding in the values and I've got it in my notebook and I tried to knit it and the knitting's not working. I don't have it in a text chunk either. So I'm just not sure.
Yeah, do you want to pull up your screen and let me look and see where you got it.
Yeah. Sorry, let me make sure we're in the. Okay, so this is my RMD file. And if I knit.
Oh, I think. I don't think it's the table that's doing it, but do me a favor real quick. That end tabular and end center, move those over all the way to the left for me. I don't think that's causing the issue, but. No, I think it's got a problem with, here are the name of the input file.
Maybe it's, no.
No, I think it's angry at your file name. The name of the input file cannot contain special.
That could be, yeah. Let me try to save it as something else.
Yeah, try.
So having the hyphen in the file name, could that be causing it to not knit?
I think so. Try it without. So in general, my personal rule whenever I do file names, and I try not to put spaces in file names. And if I want a space, I'll generally denote that with an underscore. Looks like we're getting somewhere. Did you knit it to Word or PDF?
I tried to knit it to PDF. Looks like it. Okay.
There it goes.
Just took a minute, but it looks like we got it, right?
It's still showing me, it might be the way that you're sharing on Zoom. It's still just showing me the RStudio, but if the PDF popped up on your end, then you're good.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. And did that table look good, Cameron, when you end the PDF? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write some script in the chat. If you could tell me or guide me as to what I'm doing wrong, so it's coming back as NA. So.
Oh, you might actually. Yep. I think I probably already know what's wrong.
Okay.
We're in the breakout room when I put this in the chat. Yep. All right, so I just re-put a piece in the chat. So the problem is for BMI. Yeah, actually, let me change two things in your code. So instead of calling BMI that way, I would call it using the $sign instead.
I tried that too, and then I was like, ooh.
The $sign really, I think, is the best way to call those, especially when you're working with a data frame, because we'll use the $sign a lot. But the problem is that there's missing data in BMI. And so the mean function, what is happening is, remember that NAs are kind of like saying there's missing data.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening is right now, R is trying to find the mean of BMI, but some of those values are missing. And so R is saying, well, I don't know what the average is because some of the values are missing, so there's no way for me to calculate it. So what you can do is you can add in an argument that's na.rm equals true. And what that tells R is remove all the missing values first and then compute the mean.
And what does the NARM like mean?
It means NA remove. So remove the NA.
Okay. NA remove. Okay.
You'll find that that will happen with a lot of summary functions, especially ones that are for quantitative. So like mean, median, they will produce that. So if you ever run any of those and you end up with NA, more than likely you've probably got missing data and you just need to add in that argument. Now, one of the things I was talking about before, and I don't have you all do it here, but this is something in practice you want to make sure of. If you're ever analyzing data and there's missing values, always make note of those missing values. So like in an actual publication, if you were including this table, you would want to have a little footnote on it that would say for BMI, there were this many missing values. For, I forget what else I had you look at, for, what's the other one? Age, there were this many missing values, because it's possible that there might be some people that gave their age but didn't give their BMI. So there's no guarantee that those are going to be matching, you know, from one variable to the next. So you always want to denote that there were missing values. And that's for, you know, like I said, for publication purposes and things like that. Because one of the key things to data analysis in general is transparency.
Is there a way to call and find out how many missing variables there are, or would it just be like,
I'm going to write you a line of code right now. All right, so there are two, I've got a function inside of a function here.
Okay.
Let's talk about what the two different pieces are doing. So the is.na, remember we've seen a lot of those is functions before. So if you call is.na,
and then that's like is being like show non.
Yeah, it's basically what it's going to do is for each element for that variable, it's going to go through and figure out, is it missing or not? And it's going to, if you run that last line of code that I just put in the chat, what that's going to do is that's going to give you a whole bunch of trues and falses. So everywhere there's a missing value, it's going to return a true. Everywhere the value is not missing, it's going to return false. But,
so just give me like the number.
So did you run the sum one or the is.na one?
The is. Okay, so the someone will tell me the number.
The someone tells you the number, because the someone is going to sum up all those trues and falses. And falses are going to be counted as a 0, trues are counted as a 1. So that's why if we sum those up, it'll tell you how many of those are missing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And like I said, we're going to spend a whole week. There's a package, it's called it's NANIAR. I don't know how it's actually pronounced. Nanier? I don't know. Anyhow, there's a package that is all about missingness in data sets. And it will go through and we can look at missingness in a data set multiple different ways. It gives lots of nice visuals and things like that, so that you can actually, in your exploratory analysis, look through a very large data set and get quick snapshots of what's missing, because you might have some variables that have a ton of missing data, some that just have a few, and things like that. So we'll spend a whole week talking about missing data.
Mm-hmm.
I had a quick question about the NARM thing. Can you just add that to the summary function?
You should be able to.
Because I tried it and it put output, but I just didn't know if that was just, you know,
Yeah,
maybe R ignoring it or something.
I am pretty sure the summary function takes that. One way to see what arguments a function is going to take. Okay, it doesn't show it on this one. The na.rm is a pretty common argument that is used. So if you put it in the summary function, pardon me, and it didn't spit out a warning afterwards, then it accepted that argument.
Okay, and can I use that for the table then?
For the table, you won't need to. I don't. Try it, but I don't think you'll actually need that one for the table, because the table is going to go through and actually just give you the counts for each of them. Now, you do want to be careful though, because when you look at your table, if you have missing values, the totals won't add up to the number of people in that group. So for example, I think in group 1, you've got 52. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So if when you run that table on gender, let's say that you had 20 females and 20 males for a total of 40, then you automatically know you had 12 missing values. So when you would do that division, you could do it either way. You could divide by 40 or divide by the 52. And that would all depend on how you actually, in practice, we would do the documentation. If we divided by the 40, we would want to actually note, hey, we removed the 42 missing values, or the 12 missing values. If you divide by the 52, you're really treating it as 3 categories, which would be male, female, and missing. Either one is fine, but you just want to document how you did it because it will change the percentages. Now, in this case, I don't think there's actually any missing values in gender, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So maybe I'm not fully understanding. Like for the summary, like I just put summary group 1, and then I did the NARM equals true. Can I not use the values it spits out, like under BMI? Like I couldn't use the mean and median that it gives me there into the table?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
No, that's fine. Sorry, I was talking about when you find the percentage that are male.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
somebody won't give you that one. No, yeah, for BMI and for age, what you're doing is perfectly fine. Where gender is a categorical variable, you can't use the summary. That's when we use the table function.
Okay, gotcha. And sorry if I missed this before. I was trying to figure out my R scripts, but what exactly do you mean by an overlapping histogram?
Oh, yeah. So that's from module 3. It ties into the, not 3, sorry, we're in 5. It's in the module 5.2. It's similar to that, but if you look at the bottom of the lab, I've got some code that'll help you.
Okay.
At the very end of the lab, it says code for overlapping histograms, and I show you how to use the geom histogram to make those overlap.
Okay.
So I'm going to use that identity position. And I think it was in the 5.1 or 5.2. I think it's 5.2 when we look at the different positions, but we looked at positions for bar graphs. This is going to do the same thing, but with a histogram.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think I have my code right, but when I tried to knit it for the first table, it didn't show up.
Yeah, let's look at it.
Share with you.
You include the R chunk around it?
No, was I supposed to do that?
No, you weren't. Okay. I would say it won't show up if you put it inside an R chunk.
Okay, so I have my little code. I have all my values.
Yeah, that all looks good.
And then when I hit knit,
do you mind make the bottom window a little bit bigger? Is it giving you an error?
I don't think so. It gives me an error with those.
Click on the Markdown tab for me, if you will. For some reason, why is it going to your console? It says it made it.
Yeah, and then let me show you what happens when I get to Word.
Yeah.
I got to figure out how to open up the Word one. New share.
Oh, and when you do your share screen, instead of sharing the RStudio window, if you share the desktop, it'll allow you to show multiple windows so you can toggle between them.
Okay, how do I do? Oh, just screen. I see it.
You have to stop sharing first and then reshare, and you can select that option.
Do you see it now?
Yeah. Okay.
That's what it shows me on my Word when I. Which I don't understand what I did wrong. Do I need to include this data in it with the like reading the?
No, they'll just be like a typed.
Okay, well I'll take that out, but I don't know why the table's not showing up.
Although actually I take that back. You might have to include that in order to include the plots. I think actually you will have to include that because otherwise Markdown won't be able to create the plots.
Should these be in a
Yes, but you'll want that one to be in an R chunk.
That's what I was wondering. Okay, so those should be in an R chunk, but does the table need that?
No, the table shouldn't be. So why? Go ahead, put that one piece in an R chunk for me.
Okay.
And then let's try rerunning it.
That's Control-Alt-I, right?
I think so.
Okay.
What I'm wondering is if you were actually getting an error with that piece, and then it couldn't continue, so it wasn't finding the new table code, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No?
No. Do you see the?
Do me a favor, go back to your studio. I just want to try something. I'm hoping this isn't a problem with Word. Knit to an HTML for me and see what it outputs.
Yeah, mine doesn't work with, well, I guess the HTML maybe. I don't know. It doesn't work with the PDF, but this is the HTML and it's not popping up.
So it's not producing the table. And so if you don't mind, close that out and let me go back and look at your table code. So all of that looks good.
I know I like looked over the notes twice already.
Yeah, it's not popping out to me because it's all. Do me a favor, in your bottom window, make your bottom window a little bit bigger for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to see, yeah, let me look at that. I'm really surprised it's not outputting it, and it's also not throwing an error.
That's what I was confused about too.
Yeah, because normally, you know, if there's a problem with the table, it'll spit out an error. Scroll down for me if you don't mind. What was there was a big chunk there. Well, I'm kind of perplexed. All right, let's go back, to the RMD file. And do me a favor, just above the begin center line in the RMD.
The RMD, oh, the begin center.
Yeah.
I don't have anything above that.
That's fine. What I want you to do is just write a line of just junk text. It doesn't matter what it is. I just want to put a line of text in there and see if for some reason it's having trouble. I don't know why it would. There we go, perfect. And then hit enter for me and do a blank line after that. And let's try running that.
Well, now I have junk text.
It's so strange.
Should I try copying it in a new window?
Maybe. Is anybody else having this issue? Oh, that's bizarre. What am I not seeing here? Well, it won't run independent, actually, now that I say that. Yeah, let's just try putting it, that's a good idea. Copy it, and then let's put it in just to a brand new notebook, maybe. And just to see.
Do I need anything with it or just hit knit?
Let's just preview it. Let's just see what happens. It's going to make you save it, but.
Doesn't matter. It's on my Google Drive.
Oh, I've got so many things that I save as test or.
Well, it didn't appear.
So weird. Okay, let's close that. Thinking here. I don't think this is causing the issue, but you do have a stray parenthesis in the group 2 line at the very end. After the.
Oh yeah, here.
I don't think that's causing.
If that causes the issue.
I don't think that's it. I'm so perplexed here. All right, so next thing, can you on your computer go to the folder where the original RMD is located for me?
My Lab 5 one?
Yeah.
Okay, you just want me to go to the folder?
Yeah, so there's going to be a text file in there that's the log. And so that log is going to produce any errors that it encountered while compiling. I'm really surprised they didn't show up or that it even compiled to begin with, but let's just see. So up in the lab 5, so up towards the top.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, so there should
The
be
RMD.
not the RMD.
The this.
Why does it not have? Oh, that's strange. There should be a text file. That's the log for that. Oh, you know what? You're not
I don't see that.
Yeah, so I bet it's not producing it. That's why. But it should still do. Will it let you compile the PDF?
My computer doesn't work with that, but I will try it again.
Yeah, if it doesn't, it's not a big deal. I was just curious.
I always get this error.
Oh, gotcha.
I have a question about 3B with the overlapping histogram.
Yeah.
So in your code, it says position equals identity. What is that?
So that's it. Have a look at the module 3.2 or 5.2 script. So in there, I give a lot of examples of the different positions. So that position is controlling basically the overlap. So we looked at it for the different bar plots, but we're doing the same thing here for the histograms. So have a look. If you don't see it, let me know. But it's in the second half of the 5.2 script are the different positions and what they actually control.
I have a question. My histograms are not showing up. Is
I
it
don't
because,
have that issue.
Yeah.
like, I'm not getting error, but I'm getting the correct thing in the console, but my histograms aren't showing up.
Oh, like in your notebook?
Yeah.
Okay, do me a favor.
Or, I don't know.
I'm still in the script and it's just showing a white screen.
Okay, will you email me that RMD file and let me take a look at it on my computer? Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm perplexed with yours. Shelly, yeah, do you want to share your Shelly while Kate's sending me that email?
Okay. So it's only down here in the console. So I get the correct, I mean, it's not giving me error down here, but it's not giving me a plot over here.
Oh, it's because remember, so that line of code, that's not the full line of code. That's just how to do the geom histogram. Remember, you still got to have the G plot up above it.
Damn you, G plot. Okay.
Try that. If that doesn't fix it, let me know.
Okay.
Okay, so I have that same code, but I put like ggplot data equals super clavicle, and it's just giving me a white screen on the side.
Yeah, because you got to add on the next layer. Did you add on the geom histogram layer?
Mm-hmm.
You've got the plus sign after your ggplot.
Oh, you know, that might be
If that
helpful.
doesn't fix it, let me know.
Mm. So it says group factor not found. Oh, because I want to put group 1,
Yeah.
and then the next line of code will have the same thing, but just group 2.
No, so there's another piece to that. You need to check and make sure in the data set that group is a factor, because remember factors, we need factors to work with in ggplot. So when you click on the data set up in the global environment, make sure that group is currently a factor. If group is not a factor, then you have to make a new variable called group.factor and convert group over to a factor.
We went over the code to no. We looked at code to see if it was a data frame, right?
Yes, but it's very similar. So what code did we use to see if it was a data frame?
I would have to go back and look because I don't remember off the top of my head.
So I'll give you, it's actually real close to the NA one we just looked at too. So to see if something was NA, we used is.NA.
So it would just be is dot or data dot frame.
So that would be for the data set. What do you think it's going to be for a factor?
Is dot frame?
Is dot factor, right? Not frame, but factor.
Oh, is dot factor. Sorry. Yep.
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 So those is and those as functions, they all work very similar no matter what the data type you're working with is. Okay, I'm slowly working on figuring out what's going on here.
So it says is dot frame is not a function.
Well, we want factor, not frame though, right?
Oh, right. Sorry. I keep. Okay, and then it says false. So now I have to turn it into a factor.
There you go. So if is dot factor checks to see if it is a factor, you're going to do something very similar to change it to a factor. We don't want is, we want
As.
something else. Yeah, it's as. So as will change it over.
And then would I have to do anything else, or is that
Nope.
That's it?
That should do it.
Okay. And then I'm going to check again afterwards to make sure it turns to true. Okay, so I did as dot factor, and then I put group 1.
And you don't want group 1, you want the full group variable there. So that group, when you make group 1, that was just making a data set that just had the group 1 data to get your summaries.
Gotcha.
For pardon me, for the ggplot, you actually want to feed it the full group. And the reason for that is because the full group, that's going to contain both group 1 and group 2, and ggplot is going to use that to do the separation. So you don't have to do it manually for ggplot. Ggplot does it for you.
Okay, so it'd be is dot factor and then superclavicle $ group.
As, not is. So you want to
That's just to figure out if it is a factor.
yes,
now
to figure out if it is. So what you want to do to make your group factor is something like this. So you want to do something similar to that to make it, to change group over to a factor, and then
Okay.
you can feed that variable into the ggplot call.
Gotcha. Okay, okay.
Do we need to do as dot factor, or will just factor function work?
I don't know off the top of my head. I used the is dot, try the factor. It might work with just factor.
But I
That's
didn't.
creating a factor, so it may just read that in and convert it over.
I am still having trouble knitting my document. It's telling me I'm trying to call tidyverse just through the library function, which works fine in my R script, but when knitting my document, it's saying there's an error and check for X quarts.
Bring up your screen for me. Let me see.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm still, I promise, working on yours. I am
Thank
stuck.
you.
That was something I just tried, but it didn't do anything.
Yeah, so try doing that same thing you just had, but put tidyverse in there instead.
I did try that.
Oh,
Or wait, I'm not going up here. I had it.
hold on. Go.
I think I might see what I'm actually doing. Let me try one more. Because I had added an extra chunk up top to do all the data calling.
I was gonna say that might be.
And so I was installing it down below, but not up top. Okay. Net.
Sorry, give me just a second here. That's bizarre. I should find tidyverse. I don't think this will fix it, but just out of curiosity, actually in your install packages, put quotations around tidyverse.
You're right.
Try that.
Oh, I thought for sure that would work.
No, so, okay. All right, so we got a different error. Let's do this. Do me a favor, go up to your top. And remember how I installed the package earlier? Because you shouldn't have to do that install package really in there. I think the problem now is since you're trying to install it inside the notebook, it can't find the mirror. So go up to tools for me and click on.
So you said go up to
all tools all the way up at the top. Oh, you're on a Mac, aren't you?
but I can get tools. Yeah.
Yeah, so do install packages from there. Go ahead and reinstall the tidyverse. See, it's already loaded, so I don't know why. Click on no.
Should I just try to restart it, like save my stuff?
Yeah, try that, because I'm not sure why it's. Yeah, try that. Try restarting it and rerun it. You've already got that package installed on your computer, so it should recognize it. I don't see anything spelled wrong. Yeah, try and let me know if that doesn't work.
So my group factor is giving me an error of object of type closure is not subsettable.
Yeah, do you mind to bring up your screen for me?
I've got that there, but I don't know.
So you have to have, oh, sorry. You don't want data group. You need the name of your data set there.
So it's got to be Supra.
Yeah, I had put that in there just as a generic.
So then, is this right down here? This
That looks correct.
Let me just try to run all of it.
Yeah. Oh, you did it have all the highlighter? Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so I got the histogram, but I've got a warning message. Oh, it's just removed 3 rows containing non-finite values.
Yeah, that's that.
That's not
Because of the missing values.
Okay, so then I just put that group factor vector in the bottom in the next one too.
Yep. And be
Perfect.
careful on that next one. You've got 2 plus signs.
Yes. It's not ready to be run yet. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so you know how like Google Doc in Word has an undo button? Is there one for R? Because I do stuff all the time where I'm like, damn it, I like screwed that up and I wish I could just hit like the undo button so it goes back to how it was.
Yeah. The keyboard shortcut is Control Z. Will automatically do that, and that actually works for pretty much any Windows program. Will be Control Z, or if you're on a Mac, Command Z. And then if you go to the top of RStudio Edit, there's an undo and a redo option there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, Cameron, I'll let me see if I can figure out what Kate's is doing, and then we'll go back to yours. Sorry, I'm still stuck on.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just make the notebook and then we can worry about knitting it later.
Thank you.
No, I'm just completely perplexed. I don't know what I'm not seeing, if that makes sense.
That's how I feel too. Don't know what is happening.
All right, Kate, I want to try something on your computer.
Mhm.
So in the lab, I posted the notebook version of the lab. What I'd like to do, so that file compiles fine on my computer. I'm trying to figure out if it's a problem with the file or the computer. I think it's the file, but if you don't mind, what I'd like you to do, download that notebook version of the lab onto your computer, save it, and let's see if we can get that to knit, because that has tables in it. And so if that knits fine, then that's going to tell me the problem is with your file. So at least we know, you know what I'm saying? Like we'll know where the issue is, so then we can troubleshoot.
Yeah, I actually already downloaded it, so I can just open it again. Okay, so then you want me to knit it?
Mm-hmm. Yep, just try to knit it and let's see what it does.
Okay, I'll share with you because I'm not getting a table.
Even when you knit that one?
Yeah, let me share. And do you see it?
I do. So you're getting all the code, but none of the tables. You know what? I wonder, has anyone else that's knitting to Word been able to get the tables?
I'm not there yet, but I will be soon.
Mine is not knitting at all as well.
Okay.
But when I try to knit your file, it works. But even like just putting a title and trying to knit, it doesn't knit. And we had the same problem last week. And I keep opening new ones.
So hey, you know what? I think this
Want me
might
to stop
actually be a
sharing?
problem with knitting to Word that I didn't realize. So I just in mine, I just took my file and I knitted it to PDF and it was fine. Got the tables, everything that you all see. But when I knit it to Word, let me try knitting to HTML. Let me try something else. Yeah, so this was a problem. I didn't realize this. So I guess when you that code for the tables will not work if you knit to a Word document. It will only work if you knit to a PDF, and I didn't realize that. So let me think of a workaround here. I think what I'll have you do is go ahead and knit to the Word. All of your plots and everything should hopefully still appear in the Word document without problem. What I think I'll have you do for the tables is after you knit that to the Word document, just make the table in the Word document, if that makes sense. So look, what I'll do while you're doing that, pardon me, I've actually got a Word document that I used for another class that already has those tables made. So if you'll give me a second, I will just post a Word document with those tables so you don't even have to make them. You can just copy and paste them in Word and move them over to your final document. Does that make sense? Okay, so give me just a second and I'll do that. And then I'll try to look and see after class if I can find a better solution than that. But I did not realize that those tables would not be produced in Word. Now, of course, if you're knitting to a PDF, just use that code. But if you're knitting to Word, use this workaround.
So if we're knitting to Word, did you still want us to include that code in the R Markdown file? Sorry if I'm, okay.
You can just leave the code out entirely. And I'm going to give you, I'm making an announcement right now, but I'll have a Word document that you can just copy and paste those tables over.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question when you have a second.
Okay, give me just 2 minutes to type this announcement and get that file out, and then we'll look at it. All right, Kate, I just made that announcement. If you all don't see that, let me know. But yeah, I would just get everything else done, get your document in it to Word, and then as the very last step, just copy and paste those tables in. All right. And forgive me, I was looking at my other screen. Who was it that, go ahead and pull up your screen.
Okay. I was wondering when I'm creating overlapping histograms, I get this error, removed one row containing non-finite values. Is that
I
a
think
problem?
that's because of the missing values is what's doing that. So remember BMI and age, I think both have some missing values in them. And I think that is what's causing that. You can ignore it.
Okay, cool, thank you.
You're welcome. Cameron, is it still giving you the error? Oh, did I lose? Oh, no, there's Cameron.
Yeah, it was the last time I checked. I just made this second table, but let me just try to knit it. I moved around the tidyverse command to a different code chunk.
And wait, so sorry, is it still giving you the error or did that fix it?
No, it's still giving me the error, although I'm sort of confused because I moved it and it's still saying the error is on line 10, even though there's nothing on line 10 that corresponds with.
Do you mind bring it up and let's look at it again?
Yeah. So it says on line 10, there's the error, which is line 10 was where I had the
oh, so be careful.
library tidyverse.
Those warning errors, the lines, they don't always match up with the lines in the notebook.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can't always go by those lines. Yeah, I'm almost wondering if is it really with the tidyverse or is it with that reader one that you've got? So you also have a free reader. Have you tried taking that out?
No.
Just out of curiosity, because you shouldn't need that reader to use the read CSV, but it's not read underscore CSV, isn't it read dot CSV? Let me double check.
I just copied it from the terminal by, I did the command. I went through files and then just copied the terminal code from my R script into the notebook, and that's where that reader thing came from.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, try doing, sorry, give me just a second here. Instead of read underscore CSV, I think it's read dot CSV, isn't it? Or am I remembering that wrong?
I have no idea.
Yeah, give me just a second.
But I'll try it.
Yeah, try read dot CSV. Yeah, try that now. Okay, it's still got that. Yeah, the function I'm pretty sure is read dot CSV though. So you won't need the reader. Okay, so it's in chunk 1. So that's your first chunk, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so give me just a second. I'm just gonna I'm basically gonna, if you'll keep that on screen, I'm gonna move that, I'm gonna type that code on mine just to double check. I don't know if I can spell here. Pro. Right, and then you got you. So that should work. All right, in your line of code, and in your code chunk there that you've got your mouse on, Over on the right-hand side, there's the little green arrow. Do you mind to click on that? Let's just run that. Okay. So it was happy with that. Go down to the next code chunk for me.
It's like it's not happy with this.
Okay, so that's the one it's not happy with. Scroll up. Wasn't there a code chunk before this one?
No, there's one after,
Okay.
I think.
Will you do me a favor? Email me your file and let me pull it up on mine.
Okay. Do you see this? This is new to me.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That's the problem. Scroll up. I see it now. So that line of code that I gave you all, notice it's got fill equals group.factor. Have a look. So in the directions, you have to create that group.factor variable.
Oh yeah, I did that in my R script, but I don't think I carried it over.
Yeah, add that in and see if that might fix it.
Well,
We're making some kind of progress at least.
yeah, let me try to knit it here.
Did that work, Cameron, or is it still giving you that same error?
It hasn't worked for me yet. No, I'm still getting the same error.
Yeah, do you mind emailing me that file? Let me pull it up on mine and see if I can play with it.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
I had a question from kind of earlier in this in the assignment. I've been bouncing around a little bit, but so for the gender column in the first table, how again do you get a count of male so that you can use it to calculate the?
Yeah, you'll want to use the table function. So I'll put this in the chat. So you'll do table. And then, you'll have to edit this based on what you named your variables, but something along the lines of, just a second here. Gender, yep. So something like this will give you the counts for the two genders. And then if you do something, actually, let me share my screen. All right. So if I was working with the iris data, for example, and I ran table and I want to look at the species, if I run this, so I can see there's a count of 50 in each of the species. So if I wanted to get the percentage for each of the species, I would divide by the total number. So I would see there's 33% in each of them. For gender, on the other hand, with yours, so for example, if you're looking at group 1, you'll want to call gender from your group 1 and then divide by the total number that are in group 1.
Okay.
But gotcha. I haven't created my group 1 yet, so it doesn't run on mine, but you'll want to do something similar to this. Now do be careful though, because I don't think, is there any missing data? in gender. I don't think there is, but let me double check.
So for number 5, where it says write a brief summary based on your descriptive findings, do you want like a paragraph or like the table?
No, I want you to actually like you write something like a short paragraph, just saying, do you notice, between the two groups, is there a different opioid use, for example, like visually, does it look like there's anything happening there?
Okay.
Yeah, so there's no missing data for gender, so you can do something exactly like this. Now, of course, for group 2, you're going to have a different count there.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. And I actually had another quick question. So for the second table, since there are a bunch of like 0 values in that one, should we remove those or no?
No, you don't want to.
Okay.
So especially here, since the variable of interest is opioid use, we want to make sure we account for, the fact there were a lot of people that didn't. Now, if I were actually analyzing this data, one thing that I might do is give the summaries with the zeros, and then additionally go a step further and say, all right, if we look at those that did have opioid use, here's what that distribution looks like. And in that case, I would remove the zeros. But you definitely want, as a first step, you really do want to have that summary with the zeros in there. And then you could focus on those that were non-zero.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we need to use the table function for anything?
That'll give you your percentage that are male for the two groups.
What number is that for?
So that's in the table. There was an error in the table. So for gender, it has mean and median, but gender is categorical. It shouldn't say mean or median there. It should just have percentage male.
Okay, so then that's why we use table.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh, Cameron, I just got your email. I'm pulling that up right now. All right, Cameron, it ran fine on mine. I did not get those errors and everything looks good. So,
Okay.
The only thing that I changed when I ran it was where I set the working directory, but I don't think that will matter. Yeah, that shouldn't make a difference. So, do me a favor, do you mind to bring up your RStudio screen for me?
Yeah.
Just want to try something. So not in the R notebook, down in your console, down in the bottom left-hand corner. Yeah, click on the console tab for me. And down at the bottom, I'd like you to type in library tidyverse, which I think you've already done, but I'm just curious what it does. Okay, so it already knew it was there. All right, so next thing, try this for me. Go up to your notebook and that second code chunk. Oh, actually, do something else for me first. Open up a new notebook or a new file for me. It doesn't matter what kind it is. There we go. All right, what we're going to do is in your Lab 5 notebook, we're going to actually take out a bunch of the stuff you've got. We're going to paste it over to the other one just like as a holding spot. And what we're going to do is we're going to slowly add pieces back in until we have the problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's keep that piece that you've got highlighted, but take everything else out of the file for right now. And we'll put it over in that other as a holding. And then, like I said, we'll add everything back in slowly until we get the same error. Oh, sorry. So you want to keep the first part in your original notebook. We're going to get rid of the second half. Does that make sense?
No. So then I needed
There you go. Okay. So I would, yes. So we're just using this as a placeholder. So you can actually just delete all of that out.
okay, now I'm supposed to delete everything.
Did you already, did you paste it into the other one? Did it paste? Yes.
Yeah, it's
Okay, perfect.
yeah.
Yeah. Delete everything out of that one, and we're going to just add the pieces in little by little. All right, so let's try running this. All right, so do me a favor too, take out that view super cloud licker. We don't actually want that because that's gonna, we don't need that piece in the notebook. Try running this. So that view function, what that does is that actually makes a pop-up window. And I didn't have a problem with it on mine, but I'm wondering if on yours, for some reason, that was causing the issue. Because it just, did it do the PDF for you now?
Yeah, it did.
All right, so let's put it all back in now. Yeah, and see if it'll run. I am betting, so sometimes the security on a Mac is a little bit different than on a PC. Oh, it's got, you want to get rid of that stuff down at the bottom. That was from the other, the notebook. But sometimes the security stuff on a Mac with pop-up windows, I think, can be a little bit different. And I'm wondering if that was causing the issue.
No errors yet.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it looks like it's working now.
Perfect. Yeah. So just remember that in the future, that for some reason on yours, because like I said, I ran that view on mine. I didn't have a problem. But what it does is it brings up this pop-up window with that data set. And I bet one of the security features on your computer was causing that to throw that error.
Yeah.
Do you want all of the histograms in our notebook when we submit it?
Yep. Yep. So you should have each of those in the notebook. And I think there is it. I think it's just, is it 2 of them? 3 of them? I can't remember now.
And when we do the notebook, do you want everything written into the R notebook, or can we just put it in a PDF and then write our descriptions?
Do it in the R notebook. It's good practice.
Okay.
Yep. So the only thing you should be putting in at the end is if you're knitting to Word, is the tables, and that's mainly just because we're using a workaround there. Okay, is yours going okay now?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm just I have everything done other than the little summary at the end.
Gotcha.
Mine's not knitting.
Let me see. You want to pull yours up, Shelly? Let's look at it.
So I get air in whatever that is at the bottom. So Word is closed.
Start saying
Word.
doesn't like where you're setting your working directory.
I haven't done anything with where I'm putting it.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's because you don't have a folder named Super Clavlickler. Oh, I can't say that word. So that's why it's throwing you that error. So let's actually, so this is probably similar to what you were having before. So let me show you how to fix this. So in the set working directory line, get rid of everything after the 5. Well, the module 5. Perfect. Okay. So module 5, that's the actual folder where everything sets. So now down in the read.csv, get rid of everything before the file name. Yeah, so starting there, delete everything before that. Perfect. So in the set working directory, you're just putting everything up into the folder. So think of it this way. You're giving your computer directions to find somebody's apartment. The set working directory gets them to the apartment building. The read.csv tells them what apartment it's in, or what apartment you're going to.
Okay. Let's see if it loads. Okay. Oh, goodness.
Did it make the Word doc?
Yeah, I'm still sharing. I've got something. Why is it showing up like this?
Oh, so on my screen, it's only showing the RStudio. It's not showing me what the Word doc looks like.
Oh, okay, hold on. Oh, it's okay. This isn't the final thing, so. Does it normally have the code when we send it to you?
And you can do, there are different options here. So normally when you do it, this all looks good. So what I would actually take out the structure that you have there, that str supra. That's a good thing to have in your script while you're checking stuff, but you don't necessarily need it in the notebook for like a collaborator to see. So I would take that out because we don't need all of that output in the notebook. Again, good to have in the script because we want to check the structure of things when we read them in, but not necessary for the notebook.
Are you talking about the tidyverse stuff and all that in the front?
No, just the structure function, the str function that you use to check the structure of the data.
Oh, okay. So keep the head.
You could actually take head out too. Because again, you know, if I was with a collaborator, they probably don't need to see the first 6 lines of the data set, but that would be something I'd put in the script that I would want to check that I read things in right.
Okay. I think it's ready now, and I just need to write what you want in there, and then it'll be ready to.
Yeah, and you saw the announcement where I put those tables, so you can copy those over.
Yeah, I copied those over. Do you want them put back into the Word doc, or can it be a separate doc? Or
you put them back into the Word doc, but you'll just want to do it very last because otherwise, you know, each time you knit, it's going to overwrite it, and you'll have to just put it back in. So I wait until you've got everything else the way you want it to look, and then add those tables in very last.
Okay.
Joshua, I haven't heard from you today. How's it going?
I'm good, just typing away.
Good. Any trouble? Anything you want me to look at with you?
I don't think so. I haven't tried to knit anything yet though, so I don't know. I might get issues when it comes to that, so I'll keep you posted.
Gotcha. And just so you know, all know, so my philosophy is knit often. Don't wait until the end because it makes it harder to troubleshoot. So in practice, whenever I'm creating one of these notebooks, I'll generally just do like one little piece, knit it to make sure everything looks good, and then keep on adding in the pieces. Otherwise, it's harder to troubleshoot if you wait until the end to knit.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe I'll go try and knit it then.
And then if y'all forgive me, I'm going to go grab just a little bit more coffee and I will be right back. I'm back. Does anybody have any questions?
Alrighty, I've got everything, so I'm gonna head out.
Sounds
Thank you.
good. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Okay, I'm trying to knit and I'm getting some weird errors.
Yeah. Let's look at it together.
Okay, I'll share my screen. It was fine before I started trying to put like the histograms and stuff in there. Can you see that?
Let's see here.
So it says cannot open the connection calls with visible.
Yeah, so what you'll want to do is, and this gets tricky because it's a difference between how the notebook environment works and then just our regular R.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you have already set your working directory, Notebook doesn't know that. So you actually just want to add in that set working directory line above your read.csv line.
Okay.
Because right now, I think what's happening is it's saying it can't find that file because it doesn't know where it is, essentially.
So just set WD.
Exactly.
Is there a way to like generate that from just like looking for it?
There is. So the easiest way to do it is to go to your bottom right-hand window.
Okay.
And click on the Files tab. And now, do you see there's all the way to the right, there's three horizontal dots. It's kind of small. It's all the way over to the right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what this is going to do is now you can navigate through the folders on your computer. It's not going to show the files. It'll just show the folders.
Okay.
You want to navigate to the folder where you've got that file located. Perfect. So click on open and now go back over to that right-hand window or the bottom right-hand window and click on more. The little gear, yeah, and click on set as working directory. It will auto-populate that code for you down in the console. So all the way down at the bottom, and now you can just copy and paste that into there.
Okay, cool. I'm used to doing it just from the tab up top, so.
Yeah, that's usually how I do it. Perfect. Yeah, try that, and then if that doesn't work, let me know.
So I'm gonna run that.
Oh, and actually, let me show you something else.
Okay.
So instead of highlighting it and running it when you're in a notebook, all the way over on the, okay, so in that code chunk, that you were just in, if you look over to the right of that code chunk, do you see? Yeah, if you click that green arrow there to the right, it will actually run that whole chunk for you. So you don't have
Gotcha.
to, so in a notebook, it considers each chunk. And you can just run those without highlighting them. Now, of course, if you just wanted to run a single line, you could still do the highlight like you wanted to, but that little green arrow makes that pretty handy.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna try to knit it, and it still is throwing me an error.
Well, let me see something. Let me read
I
this.
changed the work.
Oh, I've never seen that before. Normally I have no problem doing that. Okay, so wait, so the working directory was changed inside a notebook chunk. The working directory will be reset when the chunk is, pardon me. Well, that shouldn't actually matter. Oh, okay. So that's fine. That warning that it has there, we don't actually care that it reset it because it's already read the data in, so we don't need to access that folder again. The problem is actually down with your BMI histogram. So notice in that line of code, you've got group.factor. So you have to define, oh, sorry, your second chunk down. Yeah. So see how you've got group.factor? You have to create that group.factor first. So I have that in the code in the lab, but you have to create that first. So the problem is, sorry, I was gonna.
Oh, sorry. I was looking back to see if I, whoops.
Oh, so did you already do it in your script?
Yeah, I should have, because I mean, the script output just fine.
Yeah, you've got it there. So see.
Oh, right there.
Perfect. Sorry, I'm pointing on my screen like you can see where I'm pointing. Have a great day. I'm pointing on my screen like you can see.
Yeah.
The joys of Zoom, right?
Right. So if I run this now,
it should work now.
Okay. Maybe I don't. Okay, cool, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I will stop sharing. And I think I'm good. So have a great day. Thank you so much.
You too.
Bye.
Gustavo, I've meant to ask you before. You go by Gus or Gustavo?
I go by Gustavo. Like, I don't know. Nobody called me Gus before. It's weird.
Well, I'm embarrassed to say this. So my dog's name is Gus, but depending on what day of the week it is, his full name is either Gustafer or Gustavo. So that's why I don't know. Maybe that's not a common like shortening, and we just did that.
That's funny.
So yeah.
He hasn't showed up today, or at least I haven't seen him.
Well, he keeps on like coming like halfway in, and then he's like, "Nah, I'm good," and he'll walk away.
That I'm almost done.
I was afraid he was going to be, very vocal today, but luckily he's been pretty good. This morning he was real talkative. I don't know what was going on, but he had a lot to say this morning before class.
Okay, let me save and knit this.
Okay, I meant to ask, how was the birthday last week?
Birthday?
It was great. George did a great job. I'll show you a picture because I have one on my backgrounds that I showed for work.
Because it was 1 year, right? Oh, that's so cute. I love his little elephant.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is precious. That is really, really cute. Oh.
Yeah, he did good. I think the only thing I haven't done is done the inserting graph stuff that you sent. So I think I'm good other than
Yeah,
that.
and that should be real easy. You should just be able to just copy and paste those in and put the numbers in.
Yep. I made a little, I wish the knitting would work.
I'm really surprised by that. I'm gonna have to play around with it. I always default knit to PDF, and I didn't even think to check and make sure that that was gonna also work for Word. But it kind of makes sense when I think about it, because so that is LaTeX code, which is used by the PDF compiler. And there's this in-between step that's called pandoc that basically translates what you all put into our notebook, and it translates it over. And for some reason, I guess in the back of my head, I was thinking it would do that translation of the LaTeX code over to a Word document.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I think about it, like that probably doesn't make sense for that to work that way. So I'll have to look and see, what the appropriate way to do that for HTML and for Word documents to put those tables in. And then my guess is I'm going to look it up and they're going to tell me, well, you do it just like we did where you do it on the back end. So we will.
Yeah. Is it okay that I have the Tidyverse code with all this little warning package stuff in my final code, or did it?
Perfectly fine. Now there are ways, and eventually I was going to get to where I show you all this. I'm always like choosing which pieces to show at what time, trying not to overwhelm. So at the top,
I appreciate.
I know there's just so many little things that you could add in. At the top of each of your code chunks, where you've got the curly brackets in R, you can actually put other options in there. And so some of those options are things like eval equals false, which won't evaluate any code you put in there, but it'll print it verbatim. So that's really useful if you were trying to, for example, demonstrate code that doesn't work. You could put that in. But there's also other options that are like evaluate the code, but don't output any of it. So those are really useful for things like when you're doing the tidy package and things like that, because you want it to evaluate it, but you don't necessarily want that output in your notebook. And so there are options that you can put up there that would accomplish that.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I think I got it. How do we do it? There. So the objectives, well, I needed 2 words. I had to copy the table.
Yeah. No, that looks great.
So I imported the data set.
I would actually take out, so if you scroll up, the str, now, granted, you've already ran this, so it's fine if you leave it in, but just in general, that str super cloud, I can't say that word, but where you're checking the structure of the data set, that's a great thing to have in your script, because when you read in data, you want to make sure you understand the structure and that it read in properly, but that isn't necessarily something that I would include in a notebook.
Okay.
But just, I mean, it's fine that it's in there, but just in general, and part of the reason is you get all that output that you don't necessarily want. Yeah, those look good.
These, and then the other table. Those. I'm just gonna I'll take that chunk out and rerun here real quick.
Oh, be careful. If you do that, it's going to erase your tables. That's why I was saying if you just want to leave it in, it's fine.
Oh, I saved it in a different word.
Oh, perfect, perfect.
Oh, my head.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. Oh, there he is.